All right, here's a quick, short, goofy grizzly bear story for you guys. It's not that exciting, but if you're familiar with grizzly bears and how they react and what they normally do, it was definitely a bit of a holy shit, I am so lucky moment. And this is about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, and I was guiding a surgeon, renowned surgeon from Oregon, Ken Tuttle. Real great guy. Older guy, his knees didn't bend anymore. Real super guy. And I was guiding him for stone sheep and moose. And we had just finished our day sheep hunting up in this pass. So I got to describe this trail. So we're going up a creek bed, and in sporadic spruce timber, this horse trail meanders straight up this steep drain. And you're going up alongside of a creek bed, in the creek bed, back up on the side of the bank, and then you start side hilling steep up to this mountain pass, and then you ride through the pass, right up as high as you can in the timber, get off, and you hike to the top of the mountain to hunt sheep for the day. So on the way back, when we're going steep downhill, as a rule, we get off the horse and we walk them down, because a horse's front end is built a lot more weak. It's not as strong as the hind quarters, and you can really wear the front end of the horse out faster if you ride the shit out of them, that mountain riding, and stay on them and ride down that steep stuff. So just out of respect and to take care of your horses, we always make the hunter and myself, we get off and we walk them, and we walk down the trail. But Ken, he's a senior citizen, and his knees were in really bad shape, so I'm letting him stay on his horse. So I have my lead rope, my horse in my hand, and I'm walking down the hill with the horse behind me, my gun's in the scabbard, and we're just kind of walking down. It's not a rocky trail. It's pounded down dirt and moss, so it's fairly quiet going, right? And then your thermals, it's late in the day, so your thermal wind's coming uphill. So anything downhill coming up that trail isn't going to smell you. So, and Ken has a moose tag burning a hole in his pocket, and there's big moose around here. So I'm just walking down, not talking, and I just come around the corner, and I hear something. Like right there. There's something right there. It sounds like it's running. So, and I'm thinking it's a moose, and it's turned around and it's heading back down I can tell it's starting to move away. The sound's moving away from me. It's right there. So I just let go of my halter rope and I go bolting, sprinting down the trail, because you go down the trail dog legs right, and then it goes steep straight down to the riverbed, and the riverbed's all rock. So I go running down the trail as fast as I can. I only have to go about, 10 yards. And I hooked around to the right because I wanted to see what was running down the trail ahead of me, so I would know if it was a big moose or not. And if it was, then I just back off, tell the doc to get up his horse, tie up, and I'd call him back, or else we shoot him as he goes up the other side of the riverbed up the other bank. So I go running down the trail, spin around the corner. I'm like, oh my God. And here is one of the largest sow grizzly bears I've ever seen in my life, and 3-year-old cubs. And they are about 15 yards away from me, and they're fast walking down the trail ahead of me. And thank God she didn't see me. I would have had nowhere to go. It was spruce trees, it was like maybe 3 to 4 inch stunted spruce trees and buckbrush, and I've never had, it was probably one of my better pucker factor heart attack moments, as I am actually physically, without a weapon, running on my feet after a huge, mature sow mountain grizzly bear and her 3-year-old cubs, and they're all less than 30-40 yards away from me, and I'm running after her on a trail. And I can only imagine what would have happened if she hung a right, went down that trail, and stopped and looked back, and then saw me come around the corner running after her, which would have put me about 15 yards from her had she looked back and seen me. And she would have been on me like that, and she would have shredded the living shit out of me, because obviously it wouldn't have been a chance encounter. My body language in her eyes would have been me running after her and the babies, which would have sent her into attack and kill mode without a question about it. She wouldn't have bluff charged me for that. She wouldn't have ran at me and beat me up a little bit for that move. She would have killed me for that move. So any of you who are familiar with grizzly bears and how they react and what they do, you know how lucky I was to have not you know exactly how lucky I was to have not gotten shredded up at that particular moment. And that was a very, 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 very close call. Almost coming to death for me. But on that note, I'm going to share with you another story about a sow and cubs and what can happen, especially what can happen with your wrong body language if you decide to run. And take note, it might sound like I'm kind of talking a little louder, but I've got this raging river off to my left, and I'm not quite sure how the sound's picking me up right now. It sounds real loud to me, so I have to talk a little louder, I think. I'll know when I get back and edit this up. But anyway, this happened to a fellow I know. He guided for another outfitter, actually the next outfit over where I guided for years. Very, very experienced guy, lifelong big game guide, lifelong Alberta whitetail guide, and as well accomplished trapper and wolf trapper. And he had a man, I believe he's from Washington State, and he had him in camp. They had already tagged this guy a great stone sheep, and they're actually sitting in camp, a horse camp, horses tied up. Oh no, I guess the horses would have been cut loose with bells on. But they're in a horse camp, so there's going to be, pack boxes all over the place, wall tents set up, fires going. There's a cook station set up. They are in camp. The guide, I won't say anybody's names because I actually haven't contacted him to be sure it's okay if I would share the story about him and this particular person, but I'll share the story what happened, minus the names. And they're sitting in camp. The guide's caping out the sheep cape, which means, you might not be familiar with it, you got to take all the fat and all the flesh off the skinned out front half of the ram so that you get it tanned and mounted for a shoulder mount for the hunter later on. And yes, all the meat's definitely taken and harvested, taken home. And they're sitting there, and he's caping out the sheep, and he looks up, and the hunter's sitting right beside him, and here comes 3 grizzly cubs. They come walking right into camp. They're right there. And obviously, there's a rifle over here, and obviously it's one of those pucker moments, and the guide's looking straight at it. The sow comes into camp. She starts yelling at the cubs. You can imagine how intense that was. Very, very, very intense moment, especially for the poor American hunter. He's looking at potentially his most terrifying, worst case scenario he could ever come up with in his entire existence. The guide staying calm, speaking calm, saying, "Don't move, just don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move." Letting the sow yell at her kids, and hopefully she's going to gather up the kids and leave, knowing they stepped in the wrong place. Well, unfortunately, the hunter, his nerves couldn't handle this moment, and he instinctively got up, panicked, and started running, which triggered the sow instantly to run after him, and she pounced on him, and she basically tore his face and his scalp off, and which while she's doing that, the guy managed to get one of the rifles and he dispatched her. And the man lived, but he definitely was very, very severely disfigured and nearly died, obviously, and it wasn't too good. So how's that for a secondhand bear story from a guy I know? And just goes to show you of what you should or shouldn't do under certain circumstances. If you are sitting there minding your own business and a female grizzly with cubs comes meandering along, you should probably calmly and quietly and gently let her know you're there, and don't run. Because if you run, I swear there isn't anything as fast as a grizzly bear. There's nothing faster than a frickin' grizzly bear in North America. There isn't. And if there is, I'd like to see it on land. Because as an example of how fast they are, I remember one time I was sitting on my horse, riding up along a creek. You know, as usual, if you want a close encounter with a bear, ride up a creek with the wind in your face and thick bush. That's how I've had my closest bear encounters in my life. But as an example of how fast grizzly bears move, I was riding up this draw, and it's first thing in the morning. There's actually some wind coming down the valley with this cold creek. Cold air is coming down. The leaves are still on the trees, and they're kind of noisy. And all of a sudden, we bust out into a little bit of an open grassy area along this trail, surrounded by willow. And the grassy area was probably about 30 yards across. And there was a grizzly bear grazing in it, eating grass. Do whatever, I think it was eating grass. It was in it. And we come busting out in the open, and I have my shotguns in my saddle scabbard. And I don't care how macho and how cool and how fast and kick-ass you think you are not going to get that gun out of the scabbard, cocked, one on the tube, in time to shoot a charging bear if it charges you on the horse. It's just not going to happen. Because picture this one, we bust open the open, there's a grizzly about here to there, that stump, which is only about 5 yards. The grizzly roared, because his back was facing me. He roared, went, roar, roar, and went boom, boom, boom. So he jumped 3 times, boom, 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 turned around and went boom, boom, 2 jumps towards me, roaring. And in the time that bear went bam, 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 turned around, bam, bam, twice towards me, my hand literally went from holding the reins to getting a hold of the stock of my shotgun while it was still buried in the scabbard. Okay? So do you realize how fast that is? That bear took 5 leaps, 3 away from me, 2 towards me, and in that time, my hand went from here to grabbing onto my shotgun, and that's it. That's as far as I got. And the horses are like, huh? And he just stood there spitting and snarling, didn't attack, and we kept on riding up the trail. Crazy. And for any of you who are amazed at why the horses don't freak out when it comes to grizzly bears, well, you know, in the beginning, so was I. Grizzly bears do not freak the horses out. For some unknown reason, I don't know why, moose freak the horses out. I know why, because I mean, we've had numerous times in the rut, a bull moose have followed us while we're riding, trying to mate with our horses. So you can imagine what bull moose have done to these horses at nighttime. They've probably terrorized them, I don't know how many times, and the horses are definitely nervous of moose. But when it comes to bears, it just doesn't seem to bother them. They just don't really seem to give too much of a crap. Don't know, it is what it is. But thankfully, because who needs that bear going bam, 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 screaming, yelling, the horse bucks, dumps you on your ass right there in front of the bear and takes off, and then you're laying on your ass looking at the grizzly bear. So, no, that didn't happen, thank God. And we continued riding, and that bear stood there snarling and spitting, and then he turned around and took off. But there you go. Those are a few examples of how fast a bear goes, what to do and what not to do when sitting there being innocent and a grizzly with cubs or any grizzly bear comes walking to camp. So I guess if anything, you should probably have a gun a little closer to you than not when you have a kill in camp and you're dealing with it. So there you go. There's some more bear stories for you guys. And so there you go. If you guys do me a small favor, if you are an avid moose hunter, or you know somebody who is, or if you know somebody who's going on a guided moose hunt, or going on their own moose hunt, or even going moose guiding, I strongly urge you to share my Moose Hunter app with them, let them know it's available, and get the word out, okay? This app that I put together is very, very important for conservation, and it's designed to help moose hunters in the field, remote, anywhere without the internet connection, and it's very, very handy, and there's no BS, no misleading, no lying, and no selling of any products in there, okay? It's all just true, helpful knowledge to help people get better, and also to help promote conservation, okay? So if you could do me that small favor and help me promote this Moose app a bit, and when I get a chance, I'll come back and I'll tell you guys some more bear stories and whatever other stories I got. I got stories. I got so many stories, it's stupid. And I'll keep sharing them with you guys, all right? So good luck out there and be safe. Support conservation and get better.